items. Okay, so the building blocks of plot. We talked about the basic situation or exposition. All right, basic situation. Well, the basic situation presents a main character who wants something very much and who encounters a conflict while trying to get it. All right, so this is the basic situation. This is, we're at Crowley High and you want to pass English 2. That's the basic situation. All right, now remember, this doesn't include complications or events. All right, you passing a test or failing a test, those will be the events that will further build up our suspense. Okay, all right, so after basic situation or exposition, we have what we call conflict. All right, these are our complications. Now we have two types of conflict. First one is external conflict. All right, if I'm swimming in the ocean and the shark comes and bites me, this is an external thing. The shark is not me, so something external to me, something outside of me is coming in and giving me a rather bad day. Okay, so conflict for the character that comes from an outside source, such as another character or thing, namely here the shark, is what we call external conflict. It comes from outside of the person. Now, let's take a look at internal conflict. No big shocker here. Internal conflict, opposite of external conflict. Therefore, with internal conflict, it is a struggle that takes place in the character's mind. See the little fish here? Oh, he's so sad. There's not a big fish, going to bite him and eat him and, or, make him lunch. All right, and sushi here. No. The conflict for this little fish is inside its own mind. All right, whether that's fear or anger or hatred or jealousy or sorrow or depression or love or all of these things that your feelings, your internal elements, those would be internal conflicts. When your love or your fear or your hate comes in conflict with something that you're trying to do, that is an internal conflict. All right, so when our characters are wrestling inside their souls as to what's the right choice to make, that's not an external conflict, that's an internal conflict. Okay, let's look at complications. All right, complications. All right, so here we have the guy, oh, I'm being saved. Whoops, here comes the giant shark. He's having a bad day. Complications. Complications are a complicating factor or occurrence, as in the plot of a story, or in the unfolding of events. Okay, when something's going on, all right, namely here our pilot is being rescued. When something else intervenes or comes into the situation, like the shark, we have a complication. All right, complications again are used to build our suspense in addition to our main conflict, our main issue. All right, the girl with the love triangle. She has the two guys that she likes, and then she finds out that she hears a rumor that maybe neither one of the guys like her. Well, that would be a complication. Okay, the guy on the mission to go into this house or whatever, this military base, if he finds out that instead of 7 guards outside, there's 42 guards outside, that would be a complication. Notice it doesn't change the main issue, it merely changes the difficulty. All right, this pilot is going to have a lot harder time getting away with this shark than he would if there were no shark. That makes it a complication. All right, let's look at climax. All right, climax is the highest point. All right, so here we have a shark jumping out of the water. It's not going to go any higher. Okay, the only place for this shark to go after this is down. That's the visual you need to have when we read our stories. The climax is not just a stressful moment. All right, the climax is not just when the character gets bad news or good news. The climax is when everything changes. It's the highest point where there's nowhere else for the story to go but to the end. All right, that's the climax. So, a moment of great intensity in the plot of a literary work, generally bringing events to a head and leading to the conclusion. All right, the climax inevitably leads to the end of the story. Next, or I should say last, we have the resolution. All right, again, like with our last shark, it was as high as it was going to go, and now it's crashing back into the ocean. All right, this is the resolution. This is the end. It's done. Okay, now notice and I don't have it written here, but in this process of going from the climax to the resolution, we have what we call falling action. Just like at the beginning of the story, when we're building suspense, we call that rising action. Okay, so the falling action goes from the climax to the resolution, and the resolution is the part of the story's plot line in which the problem of the story is resolved or worked out. This occurs after the falling action is typically where the story ends. All right, the only real exception to this is where we have modern day writers who try to give us a little twist at the end of the story that makes us kind of doubt the resolution. But it's important to notice the story still has a resolution, just because you may get that little twist at the end of a story. That doesn't mean it doesn't have a resolution. That means it's adding to the end. All right, but the story's plot has ended here. Okay, after the girl chooses one of the two guys, the story's going to end. All right, the conflict's been resolved. There's no longer two guys. There's only one. The guy who successfully completes his mission, well, it's going to the resolution. There's nowhere else for the story to really go if that was the point, the main point of the story. All right, so here we have the last part of plot, the resolution. Okay, so going back, recap. Basic building blocks of plot. Basic situation, conflict, whether that's external conflict, internal conflict, complications. We have a climax, we have a resolution, and in between climax and resolution, we have falling action. In between our basic situation and our climax, we have what we call rising action, but that is all of this conflict. All right, and looking again, remember, this is how it goes. Story rises in suspense and then drops into a resolution, into a solution to our problem. All right, I hope this is instructive, and if you have any questions, as always, you are free to email me.